Boris Johnson was connected to the Europeans. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel were at the top of the telephone list of the British Prime Minister on Sunday. In the previous week, Johnson had already made contact with EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, as well as Mark Rutte and Alexander de Croo, the heads of government of the Netherlands and Belgium. A few days before the next EU summit, there is noticeably growing nervousness in 10 Downing Street. Which is no wonder, because in the second half of the week, the EU could decide to ban the exports of vaccines that were intended for Great Britain. The EU Commission has already threatened such an action. And British experts have calculated for their government that a corresponding ban on exports could set back vaccination operations on the island by 2 full months, although it would only be of very little use for the EU. This prospect also caused unrest in London because the British have just learned that they will be missing the vaccine that was expected from India in April. And after the recent AstraZeneca chaos in Europe, vaccination centers in Great Britain are now also reporting initial doubts in the local population, not only about AstraZeneca, but about vaccination in general. The British Prime Minister has so far reacted remarkably cautiously to the situation. In contrast, the conservative press is almost oozing hostility. The Times warned that the EU wanted to seize entire production facilities with warlike powers. The Daily Mail reported that the EU had declared a vaccination war on Great Britain. Foreign Minister Dominic Raab accused the Union last week of adopting the level of dictatorships and practically playing with fire. Defense Minister Ben Wallace added on Monday that if the EU should actually revoke existing supply contracts, it would damage its own reputation in a terrible way and in front of the world. Many Britons also found this a strange remark after their Prime Minister himself had always shown little concern about breaking international treaties. Johnson's reputation had also suffered greatly the previous year when his nation suffered the highest death toll after the kingdom's COVID crisis hit. In the meantime, of course, the picture has changed. Thanks to their vaccination triumph of the past few months, the British find themselves in an unexpectedly strong position. A combination of smart advance planning, targeted investments, and the ability to mobilize the National Health Service, the NHS, has significantly improved the situation. Unlike in the EU, where the vaccination start was a fiasco and the third wave of the pandemic is currently threatening many lives. And we are going in a stricter lockdown over Easter at the moment. On the island, however, half of all adults have now been vaccinated with at least one dose. Although, once again, if you look at the whole scheme that's available online, you see with the numbers of people being fully vaccinated, the EU as a whole ranks much higher than the UK, and many parts of the world rank much higher than the UK. So it's always the way of perspective to talk about this topic, as it always is. The NHS managed 844,285 vaccinations last Saturday alone. The daily number of infections has dropped to less than 6,000 and the number of patients has fallen rapidly. Not even Boris Johnson had expected such a success, whose popularity is now rising sharply on the anniversary of the fatally belated first lockdown. Triumphant tones, especially from the Brexit camp, are not surprising. The new vaccination record was accompanied by headlines like, "This is how you do it, EU," or "That really annoys Ursula." Unsolved Brexit problems, old resentments, and newly awakened feelings of superiority form the background to such reactions. And, of course, the fact that this one success is used to cover up all Brexit shenanigans that are happening at the moment. And it's that part is really ridiculous. And Brexit hardliners, including individual ministers, find a vaccination war mood very useful in order to further deepen the gap to the continent and to cover up their own mess they made with Brexit. Of course, more thoughtful politicians and commentators on the island do not see any point in the fact that the EU should now use the club of an export ban. With such a drastic measure, they believe Europe is only risking the further entry of production materials that are needed in the EU for vaccine production and, moreover, endangering the entire international flow with an EU-specific form of vaccine nationalism of all kinds of preparations. Although the thing with the delivery of raw materials will end soon as well. If you research properly, you know that the EU is, because of the behavior of the UK government, aiding that this will happen soon with a lot of companies, even one of my hometown, that they will produce those raw materials here in the EU and, for example, here in Germany. So that will not be another threat from the UK. We heard that before. So we can't be threatened with that anymore. On the other hand, people in London also know that embarking on a vaccination war would not solve anything for Great Britain, but would only lead the country into dangerous territory. Even Johnson, who in the past did so much to stir up anti-EU sentiments, tries to keep his tones muted in this new situation. If a wave hits our friends, I'm afraid this wave will eventually reach ours too, and international cooperation is required here, he says. Indeed, both sides are wondering whether a gesture of solidarity and the letting of threats would not be the best chance for an efficient fight against the virus. The waves of excitement surge high enough. An export ban would in any case only be counterproductive, said Micheál Martin, Prime Minister of Ireland, and the country most severely affected by British-European relations. If we start this, we'll be in real trouble. And because some really nationalist guys from Ireland, and I said I don't tolerate extreme nationalism from anywhere. I'm talking against this in the UK for a long time, especially in England, but I won't let this go through from Ireland either. When I'm reporting on things, I'm reporting in English, and I will use the English translation of the function of the people I'm talking about, so everybody of my viewers around the world will understand. There are people in Ireland watching, of course, but they are not the majority. And that there are people from England watching, but they're not the majority. And so people around the world have to understand what I'm saying. And so Micheál Martin will always in my videos be Prime Minister and not Taoiseach. Nobody outside Ireland who's not completely involved in everything will know what I'm talking about if I say Taoiseach. And so you can get angry as you want. I will call him Prime Minister as well as I will call Merkel Chancellor and not Chancellor. And even worse, I have a global and European channel. I'm talking about other countries as well. And I will not use the titles in their native language. I will use the English translation of their titles. And that also goes for Micheál Martin. And if you get insulting because I do that, I just kick you out of my channel. So it's that easy. And that goes for everyone. I am not tolerating extreme nationalism. Once again, extreme nationalism is not welcome here from no one. And if there are some German idiots doing that, they will be kicked out as well. Extreme nationalism has no place in nowadays world. And Brexit is a good sign for that from many cases. Another topic is, since the UK left the European Union, relations with its continental neighbors have gone from bad to worse, as you could see with the vaccinations. On both sides, a toxic blend of distrust and nationalism increasingly infuses almost every contentious issue. And there we are with the nationalism again. On the EU side, both the European Commission and several member states have woefully mishandled the rollout of the bloc's COVID-19 vaccination program. Yes, and that's for those who always claim, I'm not talking about this. You always bring up that topic on other topics where it has nothing to do with it. When I talk about what do I know, British cookies in German shops. That has nothing to do with the vaccination program. But I never said that the EU is brilliantly handling this COVID-19 situation. But the other point is, it's about the countries itself. Whatever the UK did now, they could have done as a member state. Member states could have done something on their own, not with the EU. But that is just showing us something, that they need more regulations for the EU how to deal with stuff like this. They have to learn from the mistakes. It didn't go well. No, it didn't. But it wasn't completely only their fault. There were others involved. The AstraZeneca mess was not caused by the EU. That was caused by AstraZeneca. Yeah, they ordered too late. They didn't order enough for everyone. They had a different approach to it. It was good to set on all the horses. And that's why we get more vaccines, more different vaccines in the next weeks that others don't get yet, because they never made contracts for this a long time ago. But they miscalculated in some points. Yeah, no, they have to learn from it. But I'm clearly stating here on my channel what is happening. But I'm stating it there on the context when I'm talking about where it fits, and not when I'm talking about some English cookies or biscuits. Then I'm not talking about the COVID vaccination program of the EU. But some people in the comments don't learn that. But back to the vaccination program. The EU has directed its threats of vaccine protectionism principally at the UK, whose vaccination campaign has so far gone well. Yeah, and I never said anything else. While individual European governments have damagingly criticized the efficacy of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. The complaints about the vaccine, developed by world-renowned experts at the Oxford University, fly in the face of objective scientific evidence, thus inevitably raising suspicion of anti-British sentiment. But what happened here last week had nothing to do with anti-British sentiment. We had those cases. They were outside the statistical numbers. And so our scientific boards had to check this. After a week, they had checked everything and they said it's okay to use them. We just have to inform the patients differently. But that was the right way to do and had nothing to do with anti-British sentiment many Brexiteers are coming up with now. There is one thing from personal experience. I haven't been vaccinated yet because I'm waiting until it's my turn. And we have a different approach. We in Germany have everyone vaccinated twice in a short amount of time before the next category of people is being vaccinated. That's why we have a much higher percentage of people fully vaccinated than the UK. It is a different approach. So have you gotten your jab yet? Yeah, like many Brexiteers come up with, it's just bull. Of course not. But when I get mine, within a short time I'll be fully vaccinated and not just partly. But this, from personal experience, what I want to say from people around me, it's not a scientific approach, it's just personal experience. The fact around me is at the moment that people who were vaccinated with BioNTech had no side effects from the people of my friends and family. The people in the UK, for example, as well, I'm counting in that I know who have been vaccinated with AstraZeneca had more side effects. That is just a fact from personal experience. It's not statistically relevant, it's not scientific proven, because the numbers are too low, but it's just the experience I make. And so, of course, I have to think about this too. And when you hear things like this and you don't reflect properly on that, I do have a certain kind of understanding for people, and that they were reluctant a bit to take AstraZeneca. And we have a warning still because of the blood clots, because that the rating is still a very low one, but it's still outside the statistics with AstraZeneca. That's why patients that are to receive AstraZeneca here in Germany will get a warning beforehand. And it's not about politicians making people reluctant. What we are dealing with here in Germany, for example, is that our government wants to play with open cards. There were issues with AstraZeneca, they still exist. But what our politicians are saying is the costs are far lower than what it gives us, where it brings us in this pandemic. And they are still not saying it's a brilliant thing. They are saying the costs are much lower than what it gives us. And so they want to play with open cards, and that's an approach I expect from my government. If they wouldn't handle that differently, I probably would speak very differently now. And there were some things I talked about, like the mask thing and stuff, where they ordered them, and some people were quite corrupt there. I talked differently about them. But in this case, I agree with my government and the handling of the situation for that 1 week with AstraZeneca. And that's why I understand some people, but I don't understand all this using this vaccination as an weapon in political discussions over Brexit. Of course, I understand why some people do that, but it's completely unrelated. But in general, we have all the discussions now because of the withdrawal agreement and so on and so on. Many European governments took long to come to their sense and restart their rollout of the vaccine with the full backing of health regulators. Some shorter, some longer. The UK government, for its part, has again deliberately breached the withdrawal agreement with the EU that Prime Minister Boris Johnson signed early last year. And so there are conflicts on both sides now. And the UK has chosen to be outside the EU's custom union and single market, while the Republic of Ireland remains in both. So the only way to avoid re-establishing a border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, which would undermine the 1998 Good Friday Agreement that brought peace to the UK province, is for Northern Ireland to remain in the customs union with a border of some sort between it and the British mainland. Johnson signed up for this, something that his predecessor Theresa May refused to do, and then decided that there would be such a border. Now his European Minister David Frost, who is to diplomacy what a chainsaw is to origami, has announced that the UK will ignore the withdrawal agreement until it gets what it wants. This stance confounds patient efforts to find ways to ease the inevitable problems that will arise from having a border in the Irish Sea. So that should have been a quiet period of nurturing post-Brexit UK-EU relations has turned into a barren brawl. Meanwhile, Johnson's government recently spelled out how the UK will use its supposed freedom outside the Union in a policy document that attempts to flesh out the concept of global Britain, as if the country had not had global interests and influence for centuries. And so this is just a summary of the issues we have at the moment. From vaccination via Northern Ireland, via the TCA, there is too much to work on. And then global Britain, they can do what they want. They are, and as they were, a sovereign country. And in foreign policy, they have kept in close contact with their allies while they were a member, and I expect them still to do that, because everyone of a sound mind in a Western country will try to coordinate everything with his closest allies, especially allies in the way of life. There are other entities on this planet with still enough influence. And so this whole warmongering stuff has to stop. But until the British press doesn't, what some always call the Murdoch press, we will still see all these resentments going along. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.